what up, guys? It's your boy, Joe Brooks, actor, author, entrepreneur, producer, and talent manager, and you're listening to the one and only Still Toking with.
Hey everyone, this is Rich Ramon, and you're listening to Still Toking with. Yeah.
Hi, this is Maurice LaMarche, and that name will mean nothing to you, nor the sound of my voice, unless I become the brain from TV's Pinky in the Brain, or Calculon, the star of all my circuits from Futurama. Oh Lord, there's a bottle, so from Futurama. And you are listening to this, and you are listening to Still Toking with on the Dorkening Podcast Network.
So come on, hey. Step it off, break it down and lose it. Come on, hey. Follow us to the new revolution. Come on, hey. Step it off, break it down and lose it. Come on, hey. Follow us to the new revolution.
What's happening, everybody? You know what time it is. Time for another killer episode of Still Toking with. Yeah, you know who I am. But Jar Jar is actually out for the month, so Jeff and I decided we were going to bring back past guests as special co-hosts. So our first special co-host of the month is none other than the amazing, extremely talented Sandy Netburn.
Hi.
How are you?
Sweet, you called me extremely talented. I'm Will. How are you guys?
I was just going to use extreme, but
I don't know what to do with that. Is that a compliment? I'll take it as a compliment.
yeah, yes, it was. Yes. Of course.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
That voice you hear in your head is none other than the one and only.
Right now, I want to say, if Ben gets a little choppy tonight, it's because he's not where he's normally supposed to be.
Yeah.
You're like in Vermont in the middle of East Cuddy Bumfuck.
I am literally at the base of Sugar Bush Mountain in Warren, Vermont right now, yes.
Oh, so I wore the appropriate shirt, Bush.
Well, yeah,
wrong
but there's supposed to be sugar above it.
You know, sugar? I'm the
Yeah,
sugar.
Sugar Bush. Okay. More like the salt.
No? Oh, well, it depends on how you look at it.
Right?
So anyway, let's get on with the show. I did wear this shirt on purpose. I was going to try and write on it just to kind of change what it said because it's Bush, not Butch. But let's bring in Mr. Butch Patrick. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how you doing? How's everybody?
We're doing great.
We're well.
Is audio okay? Everybody good?
Yeah,
Levels?
you're good. Yeah, you're
good,
excellent.
man.
It's funny you were making mention of that Bush shirt. When I grew up with the deaf community. My next door neighbor was deaf. My best friend's brother was deaf, and he couldn't say Butch, and he called me Bush.
Oh, okay.
So in honor of Kim Randolph, I am Bush.
He is Bush tonight. This is Butch Patrick.
Yeah.
So welcome to the
I
show.
I won't go any deeper into that.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
We've been trying to get you on the show for I think 2 years now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I was waiting for Sandy to be on the show.
I figured that's what it was going to take. Actually, it's kind of funny because Jeff, myself, and we're very good friends with Mr. Diamond.
Right.
And Bill was going to reach out to you numerous times, and then I think it was last summer where we met Sandy. You were at the show as well, and we chatted a little bit. And it just so happened that I've been dealing with Harlan Ball for three plus years now, and I saw that you and Johnny Whitaker were going to be handling some stuff with upcoming things, exciting things that are coming up. And I said, "Oh, Harlan, you got to get me Butch. You got to get me Butch."
And poof,
and there he is.
Look at that.
But we put John on first, though.
Yeah, but he didn't show.
I know, but he was scheduled first, so Well, he did show, sort of.
Well, yeah, he got stuck at work. At work, and then he called and he said, "Can I please reschedule?" And he came on and talked to us. But so Butch beat him to the punch.
All right. Well, Lidsville was the third show. Sigmund was the fourth show, so it's apropos.
Exactly. So speaking of Lidsville, let's get right into that. I mean, Lidsville is being released on the Sid and Marty Krofft channel on Cineverse for a whole new generation of kids. How do you feel about that?
I'm great with it. In fact, it's amazing Sid's doing so well, and I get a chance to see him as often as possible. He's out touring around. What I was very excited about a year and a half ago, I had this idea in my head for years about a Krofft Con. I always thought it would be great that the body of work that the Kroffts put together could handle a convention of its own. So what we did is I told a friend of mine up in the Bay Area with the Orinda Theater, Derek Zemrak, about the idea after we did a Munster Go Home screening. He goes, "What else you got?" I go, "I've been wanting to do a Krofft Con." And he goes, "We could do that here." And I was so excited because Marty, before he passed, made it up there. Sid and Marty hadn't been talking, so they got together, chatted. We had Caroline Ellis come in on a Zoom call from Portugal. Wow. We had all the Krofft characters. Myself was there, Michael Knight, Johnny Whitaker, Sharon Baird. Anyway, it was really a good thing, and it came off without a hitch. And it was amazing that how many people just loved the Krofft characters and the shows.
Right. I mean, I remember growing up with a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I was born in 72, so all through the 70s, when mom and dad wanted, mom and dad time, we got the TV.
It was interesting. They actually really did so much work. I mean, they started with Puff and Stuff and the Bugaloos and Lidsville and Sigmund and so on, and Land of the Lost, of course. But they went on to do stuff even for nighttime. They did the Brady's, they did the Oz, the Donnie and Marie show. But what I thought was their best was the DC Follies. They were very cutting, they were very cutting edge, and that's the type of stuff that Bill Diamond does. Those great puppets, and they were very edgy stuff, and they have like I said, a huge body of work. So I was very happy to have been part of it, even though it was summer of '71, and I wasn't at the time too crazy about being on Saturday morning television. But as it turned out, in hindsight, it was I was lucky that Sid persuaded me to do it.
You had to be persuaded?
I did.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Marty called me a couple times on it, and I had just lost a movie deal that was going to put me into like Academy Award status. They were like a supporting actor. We had billboards in Hollywood, and unfortunately, the producer and his wife, Rhonda Fleming, had a horrible Hollywood divorce, and the movie got shelved, and it never went anywhere. So I went from having these expectations of going into movies, and then what was left over was an offer to do a Saturday morning kids show. And it was like, I'm a senior in high school. I'm not really too crazy about it. I didn't really need the work. I like to go surfing. But what happened was the Cowsills told me, you never turn down work in Hollywood. So I went back out for a third interview. And Sid this time took me for a ride in his Corvette, which I was impressed because I had a Corvette. We went up for lunch, and I decided to do it. It was probably the best move I ever made because at that time, it was only 11 weeks work, but it paid me for 4 years.
Wow.
Weren't you persuaded by the fact that you thought you were going to meet Caroline Ellis? And didn't you say you were just on a Zoom call there? That worked out.
That too. I had really long hair. So first thing they wanted to do was cut my hair off like halfway. So I said, I can live with that. But I was looking at the pictures of the Bugaloos, and I go, that girl over there, she's really cute. Is there any chance if I'm out here, I'll meet her? And he goes, oh, she's here all the time. Well, she was in England. He lied. So she never did. She never did show up, but he told me whatever I wanted to hear to make sure that I showed up at Paramount for Stage 8, and then afterwards, Caroline and I become friends, long distance friends via the connection with the Bugaloos in Lidsville. Yeah, but you're right about that, Sandy.
Wow. Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't aware that the Sid and Marty Krofft were involved in all of those television shows.
Oh, and then there's a whole bunch more, too. There's like with Bruce Buzzy and Jim Neighbors, they had The Lost Saucer, and Chuck McCann, they had Space Nuts. I mean, they had just a whole bunch of stuff going on.
I mean, when I was a kid, I just liked watching them. I didn't give a shit who made the things.
Yeah, it was very entertaining. They owned Saturday morning television. I mean, there were cartoons, and then there was like, Sherry Lewis and Captain Kangaroo, but the live fantasy stuff, they owned that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Were they also part of, was it Puff?
Puff and Stuff.
Puff the Magic Dragon. Who did that?
Oh, no.
Was that?
No.
That was somebody else. Okay.
No.
All right.
No, they didn't. But they even had a theme park briefly in Atlanta, which is now the CNN Center. They literally were huge. Literally huge.
Wow.
I mean, I watched most of those shows.
And it was the Kookiest, Lidsville, Charles Nelson Riley. And
Right.
I mean, he was hilarious. I mean, he was a handful, but he was hilarious.
Now, Lidsville was after the Munsters, correct?
Yeah, I was 11 and 12 on the Munsters. The summer I turned 18, I did Lidsville.
Right. So let's just drop back to the Munsters for a quick second. This is the 60th anniversary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 60 years.
And it's still going just as strong now as it was back then.
It slowly has stayed in the forefront of, it's never went to the big screen or to Broadway like the Addams Family movies, but it's had 5 remakes. It's had a series remake. I actually played Pugsley in a one-off Addams Family Funhouse, even though that's the Addams Family, but it had recently the Rob Zombie remake, and now James Wan, I believe it's either Han or Wan. James Wan, who the director from Saw and Insidious, has got it now to do his version of it. And it was very interesting because when one of my agents called and said, "Hey, they got your picture in the trades next to the new Munsters reboot." And I go, "Well, that's interesting. Why would they use my picture instead of the Munsters picture?" And then I thought about it. I go, he's probably looking at the success that Tim Burton had with Wednesday, and Eddie was never developed. So maybe he's going to go with the Eddie development thing. So I sent a message to him. I said, "Congratulations, and please make Eddie dark and interesting."
Right.
But the Munsters has always been extremely popular with toys, collectibles, merchandise. Mm-hmm. There was a cartoon series, so it's been around, but it never really was blockbuster big. It just has always been there.
Well, right, and then what I meant by that is it has sustained the test of time for 60 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it didn't just come out and go whoop and drop off and then bounce back and drop off like some shows do. This thing has kind of just stayed.
Well, I tell people that too. I go, I'm honored. And they say, like, "You ever get tired of being Eddie Munster?" And I go, in Hollywood, with the thousands and thousands of series over 60 years, you're lucky to be on anything that anybody remembers, let alone be a consistently, pleasantly remembered family value, kids of all ages, multi-generational, enjoy it. And I think that's a tribute to, number one, it was unique. Very much one of a kind. They say the Addams Family, but the Addams Family didn't have all the monsters and the makeup and all the things going on that we did. So we were like literally a one of a kind show, but it was based on the Universal monsters, which are legendarily popular, tied in with the Leave It to Beaver producers, who did the first sitcom that was actually from a kid's point of view, with the children being the stars and the adults being the supporting cast.
Right.
So it's kind of magical.
And besides, they had the cool cars too.
Right.
And we had George Barris cars and great guest stars and good writing. It was sort of a perfect storm, all mushed together for a couple of years in the middle of the best decade of all of the 60s, right at the transition of black and white to color. It was a perfect 2-year window, and we did a color movie that introduced the world to the show, and then the rest was just merchandising gold.
Right. And now, correct me if I'm wrong. You own a car.
I do. I'm a Dragula out in the garage, and I just stopped by my Munster coach yesterday to check on its progress, and it's about 4 to 5 months away from being completed as well.
Oh, nice.
And the reason I'm bringing that up, folks, for the people watching or listening to us later on, is check the show notes up above or down below to find out about Butch. But you can book him at an event with himself, or for some extra cha-ching, his car. And you can really...
Well, one of the things we were speaking about was, the fact that I had a Munster coach and a Dragula, but they weren't accurate. So I got rid of those. And the ones that I have now are like George Barris accurate. I actually own the molds for the coffin and the body and the scoops. So right now people are buying kits from me to turn their tea buckets into Dragulas. So that's kind of cool. And I'm a kind of a gearhead. I'm a member of a cool car club in New Jersey called Dead Man's Curve. And they've got, their own vehicles, but they've also got, one of our members has got 26 screen used classic cars. He's got like every Batmobile, and he's got the Ghostbusters, and he's got, you name it, he's got it. But the fact that we have, he's got the original Dragula, but the Munster cars are synonymous, and it has allowed me to do what I like to do, which is drive around the country. And hence the upcoming, we'll talk about the drive-in movie angle that works well because I do have the cars.
Right. And that's kind of where I was leading. I was leading into the Drive-In Association. Is that what it was
The Drive-In
called?
Owners Association of America. Yeah, we used to have 4,000 drive-ins in the heyday. And for me, I literally grew up in the 50s, and I remember going to the drive-ins when they were in their heyday through the 60s into the 70s, and then they started getting sold off because the land for these drive-ins became so popular as cities grew into the drive-ins. The people, you couldn't afford the taxes to keep the drive-in open because it didn't make that kind of revenue. Right. But back in the old days when you had, land was cheap and you could do that. So there's only 400 left out of the 4,000 original drive-ins. And some of them are doing well, but a lot of them are very mom and pop owned. A lot of veterans, a lot of old hippies own them. And I love working with them directly to show them how to market the midweek when they're normally not open.
Right. Now, I think there's only a couple of them here in Mass, isn't there? I know there's one in Mendon.
I believe there's one in Wellfleet.
Is there one in Wellfleet? I used to go to drive-ins all the time.
One in Mendon, and I believe there's one right over the Rhode Island border.
Well, it is literally anybody my age. I'm 71. It was literally a rites of passage. A lot of stuff happened in drive-ins. Once you became 16, you didn't have an apartment, but you had your car. And your car was your freedom, and it was your house, and it got you to the beach, it got you to the drive-ins, it got you down to cruise the streets like American Graffiti. I mean, literally, the drive-ins were the place you could go, and it was just such a great time that I try to get people to come out. And what we're doing now is to get younger people who maybe have never been there. I got to figure out, how do you get them out there? So we're going to start doing a 10-minute feature. We're going to create a monster, a slasher type killer that comes to every drive-in I'm at, and we get the local filmmakers to do a 10-minute scary movie, and then we offer the people in the town to come out. If you ever thought about being in the movie, come out. We're filming tonight, die in at the drive-in, and come out and visit. One thing leads to another, and they can do their super scary selfie on the big screen behind them. So that's what kids like. They like selfies and they like horror. So we're going to allow them a chance to maybe be in a movie to get them out to the drive-in. Then hopefully once they're there they'll appreciate what's there.
Yeah,
that's actually a cool idea.
Yeah, I like
Thanks.
That.
Yeah, it's a very cool idea.
Yeah, I'm making up 13 weekends, a summer series, 13 double features. I've already got the movies, and I'm packing at the end, and I'm going to try to get to as many of them as possible. But the ones that I don't get to will, add stuff between the features up on the screen, and I'll help them with marketing and, do radio and TV and press the best I can. But I hope to visit at least 3 a week through the summer, so that'll be 36 through probably Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, maybe Michigan, maybe Wisconsin.
Wow. That's a lot of traveling.
Well, that's what I do.
True that.
Wow.
True.
I'd like to see the drive-ins come back. It was always a cool time.
Yeah.
Back then, us kids, like you said, 16, 17 years old, we had the big bench seats in these big cars too.
Of course. Yeah, it was. In fact, one of the things about the killer thing is, we'll have the guy kill somebody in the trunk because we used to sneak in, and then we'll have somebody get killed at the snack bar, stick them in the pizza oven, and then we'll have all these things. In the old days, remember you had the hangers on the window? They didn't have the FM radio thing.
Yeah, the big funky metal thing.
And you'd forget you'd had it in the window, and you'd drive away and rip your window out.
Yeah.
They had the crappiest little speakers. You're
right?
Like, you got this giant screen, and you got this little 3-inch crappy crackling speaker in your window.
Right?
It was so bad it was good.
Oh yeah, it's like I can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah. I know it was classic, but I love it to death. It's really a good fit for me because what I'll do is after I'm done with the Munsters and the Munster Go Home feature, then I'm going to help do Christine, do the cars with the Christine, do Back to the Future, do all the movie cars, movies related to them. And then I'm going to go cross-promote with local baseball minor league stadiums as well, and then do baseball movies. And if you go to the ballpark, you get a ticket to the movie theater. If you go to the movie theater, you get free popcorn at the ballpark. And back and forth, they can both help each other in the small towns.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, well, it allows me to do a lot of marketing ideas that I've had in the back of my mind for a long time.
Wow.
Well,
that's
folks, pretty cool.
He's not just a pretty face.
I think I missed my calling. I think I should have gotten into the ad game.
Right?
Well, you didn't miss it. You're just starting now.
Well, what happened was all my life I was always used as a prop in a prop. People would have they'd have a Munster promotion, and you get the Munster coach, and they throw Eddie in the back, and I'd see how people operated a marketing angle, and you learn by experience just by physically being there.
Yep.
Well, now I noticed you still have enough hair left. Do you ever put put that part in there like that?
No, I can draw it on with the widow's peak with a Sharpie. Right. With the Sharpie, and I do have 4 Woof Woof dolls in the other room, though.
You take a Sharpie to your forehead regularly?
Not regularly. I could. The only time I've actually put on my Eddie outfit was 20 years ago with Evel Knievel and Jimmy Walker for a Little Caesars commercial we did for pizza, and I really didn't want to do it, but it was a really big check. I sold out. I figured if Evel Knievel was, if he was doing his motorcycle and he's got his leathers on, and Jimmy Walker's dressed up like JJ, well, the least I can do is follow suit.
Well, I'll give you a little tip. If you have to do it again, use body paint, not a permanent marker. You don't use a Sharpie.
Actually, what you do is that's just for the quickies. If you're going to do it, you actually get the hairpiece and redo it properly. Do it properly.
I'm sure a hairpiece that would be easy to make, or you probably have one, don't you? No,
I don't have one, but that would be easy to make. It's not too bad.
See, I think you should get one for when you sit in the car.
Do what?
You could get one so when you're sitting in the car, just make it silver.
Yeah, well, what I do now is I figure Eddie has a receding hairline, and this is it.
Oh, there you go. Make the V go the other way.
Yeah, I tell everybody, where's your widow's peak? My receding hairline is now normal.
I have a question. So
jump in there, Sandy.
Remember before when you were talking about how the possible development of that Eddie series, and you said you wanted Eddie to be like dark and spooky? Are there any like character developments that you would like to particularly see with that character?
Well, when they did Mockingbird Lane, about 11, 12 years ago, that was Brian Singer and Brian Fuller did that with the Jerry O'Connell and Portia de Rossi. That kid Eddie had turned into a werewolf once a month, and I was really bummed out that thing didn't see the light of day, because I was going to be a recurring regular on it, and I was going to be like the Boy Scout, I guess the leader who would bring him back to the house every month after the full moon and return him back home, sort of like he's doing it again. But as far as Eddie's character, it's an open book. I mean, what could he do? What would he be doing? Would he be in a biker gang? Would he be doing horror genre movies? I mean, that's why I said make him dark and interesting, but it's literally an open slate, because Eddie was a cool kid. I mean, he could have done anything. I mean, just because he grew up in the Munster household, he wasn't limited. But imagine in a real world where you've got Grandpa, you got access to Grandpa's magic and his dungeon, and then you got the wisdom of Herman and all the stuff, that the family tree, so to speak. You could do anything with him, and anything would be cool. You could let him loose on the world. He could be almost anything. And that's the interesting part about it. He's a clean slate. He can do anything.
Right. So the Munsters wasn't your first role. You actually started acting when you were 7 years old.
Yeah.
How did you get into acting at 7 years old?
Everything along my career was accidental. Nothing was planned. 7 years old, my little sister went up for a photo shoot to do some print modeling. I went along for the ride with my mom. I'm 7, so no babysitter. When he was done, the gentleman's name was Amos Carr, and Amos Carr was the go-to kid photographer in Hollywood. Anybody who was anybody had a photo done by Amos Carr. So when he was done with Michelle, he took a picture of me because he thought I had a cool look, and he put it in the window of his studio on Hollywood Boulevard. And about a month later, a director and a producer happened to be in the area. They spotted the picture. They were casting a movie with Eddie Albert and Jane Wyatt and Brenda Lee, and they still needed the youngest son. And they liked my look. They tracked me down. I went up for an interview, and I never had acted, and they hired me. And I went to work for 6 weeks. Mary Grady at that time, who became a very powerhouse child agent in the Hollywood, was just starting off the first child agency, exclusive children agency. And I was her first. Johnny Whitaker was there after me, but I was like her first paying client, except for her son, Don Grady, who was Robbie on My Three Sons. So I became friends with Mary. I actually lived at her house a couple times when my mom and dad were on the East Coast during work. And that's how it started. And then by this end of the 6 weeks, I'd already gotten a Kellogg's Cornflakes commercial and a Mr. Ed and a couple other shows.
I was just going to bring that up.
I stumbled into it, and I just sort of worked occasionally. I never really, my mom would ask me, you want to go on an interview? And if I had something else to do, I would say, nah, I'm going to play baseball or football or ride my mini bike. And then Then the Munsters came along, and that was accidental as well. They had already hired another kid, and the network said, we want to change the mom out, we want to change the kid, but we're going to go forward with it. And then I was living in Illinois, and Mary Grady caught wind of that right after I did the Year of the Real McCoys, and they flew me out from the airport. My mom had married a baseball player. He was traded to the Washington Senators from the Angels, so nobody was living in the house on the West Coast. So when I went out there and got the part, I went straight to the studio for a screen test. I didn't have anybody to live with. So I moved in with my uncle, and we hired a woman to take me to work for 2 years.
Wow.
That was accidental. I mean, it was just like fate, because originally they wanted Bill Mooney, but Bill Mooney didn't want to do it for personal reasons or whatever. They hired Happy Durman, and then the networks didn't like Happy, and I wound up being, somehow I wound up in the right place at the right time again.
Right. Wow.
They played it well.
It worked out good. But Bill got lost in space. I got the Munsters, and it all worked out well for everybody.
Right. So, yeah, you brought up.
I couldn't see if those two roles would have been reversed. How those shows would have been.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Another thing that I was going to go back to was the music angle too. Is when you said, "What would Eddie be doing?" I actually had a Eddie and the Munsters band in the early '80s, and I submitted that to Universal for an idea. What would Eddie, the family went back to the old country. He's left in the Munster mansion, and to pay the bills, Grandpa left him 3 creatures that they learned to play music, and that's how Eddie and the Munsters came to be, which would have kind of given some credence to what would Eddie be doing. He could be in music easily, with the heavy metal look type of stuff, and you never know, Billy Idol thing or Alice Cooper type stuff.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes, like who?
That's brilliant.
Yeah, so that was actually I thought that was a pretty good idea, but it never got traction. But I did get a chance to play rock star for 6 months.
Fun.
And I also did that after Lidsville. I did Metro Media Records. They got rid of Bobby Sherman, and they were looking for a David Cassidy type, bubblegum star from the Lidsville thing. That was really a lot of fun for 9 months, and I recommend it highly to anybody to get a chance to go spend a ton of money of Metro Media Record money on their dime. I didn't do it; it was their A&R man that was doing the bill. But we toured around the country for about 6 months and had a great time. Didn't sell any records, but had a good time.
Right.
Well, I told them I couldn't sing up front. I never lied to them. I said I can't sing. So I was the original Munster Manilli.
Munster Manilli. Wow.
I was lip singing my little heart out on American Bandstand.
That's crazy.
Wow. Now, what was your take on Rob Zombie's Munster movie?
I enjoyed it immensely. I love the idea that he told the story of how Herman and Lily met. I loved Danny Roebuck. I thought Sherry Moon did a fine job. I had no problem with her. I tell people, don't expect it to be the Munsters, and don't expect it to be Devil's Rejects. It's not a typical Rob Zombie vehicle, and it's not a real Munster vehicle. It's a in-between version, and if you go in without any expectations of either side and just look at it for its own merit, I think you'll enjoy it. And the first time when I went in and saw it, and to do my voiceover work, and I saw the dailies on it, and I saw what he was doing, I immediately went, oh my God, it looks like a Tim Burton movie. It looks like Beetlejuice. The colors and the texture, which is good to me. I thought that was great. I thought it was wonderful. And I thought how ironic it is that almost 60 years later, Tim Burton is doing Wednesday, and Rob Zombie was doing the Munsters. Like they both had reincarnations that simultaneously again.
Yeah, it was pretty. I was a little taken back when I first saw it. I had to rewatch it because the first time I watched it, I thought it just kind of dragged out too much a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe it needed to be a 2-part. There was just too much information for me to absorb because I wanted to see the Munsters. I didn't want to see the history behind it in the movie that he was making. Yeah. So I watched it the second time, and it was better.
Okay, good. Well, I had no problem with it. I was happy to be part of it, and it was a prequel. So if they should ever do a sequel, there's always that open door policy. But I don't think that'll ever be the case. I think he was happy with it. The interesting thing about it was he did that whole movie in secrecy during the pandemic in Hungary. And nobody let the cat out of the bag. I went and saw him at his house. He had just gotten back from Hungary. I go, what are you doing? Location scouting? He goes, can you keep a secret? I go, yeah. He goes, I already finished the movie. I go, you shot an entire movie in secrecy during this pandemic in a foreign country and nobody found out? I go, that's amazing. That in itself was amazing.
Right.
And he did.
Yeah, because it did come out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting that.
No. He took it to Hungary because he built an entire town over there cheaper than Universal was going to rent him a Colonial Street for a day. So there you go.
Wow.
Okay. He's a good guy. I like Sherry and Rob and Jeff Daniel Phillips. I thought did a good job. And all in all, it was nice people doing an interesting project. And I think all in all, he pulled it off pretty good. I love some of the stuff, the Sonny and Cher stuff and Zombie A Go-Go stuff was just too funny. There were like anything. There were some slow spots in it. It wasn't. But I love the dating. She was on a dating site. With the guy at the beginning. I mean, that was funny stuff. That's just there was some updated, things that were going on in modern day life that they applied to the old school. But it worked out pretty well.
Well, I think it was a little risky for him too, because it was a little outside of his norm.
Oh, it's totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So maybe he took it as a challenge. I don't know.
But, well, I think the fact. See, I knew he could do this because when I found out that he was actually the art director and the production designer on Phoebe's Playhouse. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he started. When I found that out, I said, no, the guy can do other stuff. He happens to like
well, that. Explains a lot.
It's like the horror genre situation is what he does. It's like Alice Cooper.
Right.
If you know Alice, it's like even in the old days when Howard Stern, Howard Stern off mic was a totally different person,
Right.
And it was just like Alice's, or Vince or whatever, Coop. He's so different that it's a show. And that's what Rob does. Rob puts on a great visual concert, but he has the talent to do pretty much whatever he wants.
Wow. Now, could you see Eddie Munster in a full-blown horror flick?
In a full-blown
what do you think? Horror movie.
Oh,
like downright horror flick. What do you think?
But I tell you what, it would be very, very, very risky because people don't want to see a beloved character that they grew up with that's sympathetic and likable turn into something horrible. Now, possibly if you wanted to do that, you would have to do like a split character somehow was created from his DNA, and he goes off and does terrible things. But Eddie has to remain the constant nice person, and somehow something goes wrong, or he gets manipulated, or he gets hypnotized, something along the line. But as far as the typical Eddie character that everybody knows and loves, I think it'd be too risky, and I don't think it would fly.
Yeah, well, you got to take the other take to it. He wouldn't be the bad guy in the horror movie. He'd be the guy that saves the day.
Okay, well then that's fine. Yes, he could be in a horror as long as he's not the
still
killer.
Flat out horror flick. Right.
No, yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah. That would work. Yeah,
I think that would work.
Right. I mean, I don't think it would work in the new ones that what is it? Twister? Oh shit, what's his name? Is the black and white clown that just came out? He's all over the place.
Terrifier.
Terrifier. The Terrifier.
Art.
I don't think those things are like I can barely get to a Saw, but the Terrifier is supposed to be really, 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 really gory for gore's sake.
Right.
I love them.
So we do have a question coming in from the internet.
Sure.
And the question is, Eddie seemed to favor his mom's side. So what qualities did he get from Herman? Sorry, total fanboy question.
Well, good question. I think what he got from his dad's side would probably be the being accepted, being different, because Fred was always very much big into, the father and son shows usually had something about me volunteering him not wanting to disappoint me, and then us finding some moral ground and some learning characteristics of real life. That's for me would be what I got from Herman was, how being tolerant of those who are critical of you.
Wow. Did he just call you a mama's boy?
Yeah,
think
pretty much.
Did.
Pretty much.
I think he did.
Well, you try not to. I mean, one of the things that I really didn't like about when I first put that suit on, velvet shorts and knee socks. I mean, come on. And an old friend of mine, Kevin Burns, who was like a big producer and a collector of stuff. He says, Butch, he goes, you did such a good job on that you were wearing a sissy boy outfit, but yet you didn't come off as a sissy boy. So he goes, that's how good Eddie Munster was. That you came off as a regular guy, and you could have come off as a little wuss because they had you dressed in a very wussy outfit.
Well, you pulled it off. AC/DC pulled it off too.
I was just gonna say, look at that, Butch. You paved the way for Angus Young to come on stage.
I know.
In velvet.
Little Lord Fauntleroy outfit. Yeah, that was his schoolboy outfit. But yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right. But you made it
so. Ourselves.
Everybody said, "Well, hey, if Butch can do it, why can't I?"
It was just an amazing show. It was so well done. When you really go back to watch it and you see the camera angles and the lighting and the special effects and the guest stars early in their careers, we had these great comedians, well written. It didn't have a weak link. It had great music. And I think that's one of the sneaky things about it, why it's endured so well, that the quality level was top notch.
Right.
So why did it only last 3 seasons? It was 3 seasons, right? Yeah.
Back in the day, it wasn't uncommon for shows to only do 2 or 3 seasons. Number one, because we did 39 episodes a year, so there was a lot of shows. Number two, basically, Fred and Al were from New York. My opinion is, at the end of the second season, the scripts were getting a little thin. The ratings were down. Batman had come on the air. There was a transitional color black and white battle going on. Batman, they were the 4th show that came up against us. We had knocked 3 of ABC shows out of the water prior to Batman. Batman kicked our butt in the ratings. It was just that time. It was Batman, color, transitional black and white thing. Fred and Al being from New York. And then there was the idea of going color. Who was going to pay for it? Was it going to be the CBS or was it going to be Connolly and Mosier? And I believe what they came up with was a third process was, let's make a movie, call it a day, Munster go home in color, and that way everybody in the world will see it, they'll know what the Munsters are, and then we will be able to syndicate the show. But I think most of it was Fred and Al were East Coasters who were tired of LA.
Okay.
And a combination of all those.
Now you were just recently.
Sandy's been so quiet tonight.
Yeah. Well, she's like, she was scared when she first came on.
Yeah.
She's just enjoying it now.
I don't know if you follow anybody who's listening. If you haven't followed Sandy, you got to check this girl's website out. She is the most animated, visual, charismatic musician, loving life, knowing exactly. In fact, when I first met her, I said, it must be great for you to know exactly what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life at such an early age. And you're doing so talented. And remember how Cherie Curry, how she got you up on stage. Yeah. She got you up on stage and she goes, I was 15 and she's 15. And I mean, literally, this girl is so talented, but her character and her energy and her personality is what really sells. Absolutely. So if you don't know her, check her out.
Absolutely. Follow her show.
Thank you.
I mean,
can I ask a question while we're sitting here talking?
Not just Cherie Curry, but she formed a friendship with Jeff Young from Megadeth.
Oh, I know. I was there. They were like,
I was there. Yeah, we were all there. And they, in one day, they put together 3 songs and went on the stage that night. And it was like, what?
Yeah, I know. Gary Summers puts on a nice show and he brings in good people. And that's half the fun of doing those is connecting people with talent to each other. And one thing good about musicians are very, very giving of their time and their talent with younger musicians coming up. And they love to see somebody else passing the torch and sharing. And that's what they live for, is to help other musicians. And that's great. And you did very, very well. And you made some really good friends. And, I have no doubt that you're going to just be riding the wave. So cowabunga.
Well, I think that, in today's world, that's something that's missing with a lot of young people is passion for something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe it's just because, they just can't stay focused. You know what I mean?
Well, I used to do a thing of how to get into show business the right way. A woman in Cleveland had put together she was an actress and a casting director. And, a lot of people that wanted to get in the business, unfortunately, would sign up for the Barbizon or some unscrupulous group that would take your money and then not deliver any goods. And, they're like dream crushers. And when we would go do these screen tests, I would tell people, I go, look at, make sure you're doing it because you just like to act. Don't look at this as going to be, the chances are you're not going to wind up in the movies. You're not going to do this. But as long as you're just happy acting, and all the things you'll learn towards that will be very helpful in your social interaction with whatever you do in life. The things that you learn about acting are very helpful, and the responsibilities and the preparation and being on time and this and this and this, all that stuff goes into play. But if you just want to be in the industry, then you might want to consider maybe all those credits that go down at the end of a movie. Those are things that people do for real life jobs. That may be something that you could do, and you still get a paycheck and you still get union benefits and you're still at the studio, but you're not in front of the camera. But you're a lot closer to being in front of the camera working in the industry while you can still keep your acting, hopefully become an extra. An extra can lead to a speaking part. And there's ways to get involved as opposed to just going straight in front of the camera and being a movie star, which is really not going to happen. Right. So I always tell people, if you're passionate about something and you enjoy what you're doing, there's no downside to it. It's all good.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that Sandy's doing it right. I see it. You know what I mean? Yep. I mean, your love for 60s and 70s music is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
But I love it. It's fantastic. At some point I will, through Messenger, I'll send you some hidden little gems that you've probably never heard of from music.
Why not?
That's one of the fun. I turned around a few ideas and a few facts of how young Stevie Winwood was when he joined Spencer Davis Group, and Peter Frampton, Humble Pie before he was big, and I mean, there's just so many great stories about the music back in the day that Rick Derringer and the McCoys. I mean, just all kinds of just good stuff.
Yep. And
I grew up through that. I was so lucky and so blessed to be, born in '53, caught the tail end of of the rock and roll greaser stuff, and then '60s were the '60s, and obviously decade through decade. I've been very blessed.
Right. Yeah, I came into it through the '60s, through the Garden of Love, I call it.
Oh yeah.
And and then that just blew right into the Led Zeppelin era. So
I told people when I turned 16 in August, it was a very interesting few months. It was like, my aunt's maiden name was Spahn. So we used to go out to the ranch for Thanksgiving, and Old Man Spahn's ranch was next door. So I'm 16 years old in August. I get my license. The weekend before I'm doing Marcus Welby, they land on the moon. My birthday comes around. A week later, Charlie Manson's killing people. My girlfriend lives at the top of Laurel Canyon. Everybody's freaking out. A month later, I go to Brazil for 3 months to do a movie that never was seen. And I came back, and then people with no teacher and no parent, 3 months in Brazil, 16 years old, all the money in the world. That's when I came back with some party issues. I got off to a roaring start and never looked back. But now, as the good news is, with a lot of people, I'm coming up on 14 years of sobriety, which is really good. Life is good. I thought I'd never have a good time. How will I ever live without knowing where the nearest liquor store and bar is? It's easy to do. It's not I shouldn't say easy. It's work, but it's worth it. And but yeah, you talk about growing up in the year of 1969. Every time I hear Bryan Adams, it's like that's the year. That is it.
Right.
And and I tell people, I go, back in the day, bad behavior was like accepted. I mean, nobody said it was like Woodstock in the Summer of Love. And I did the movie The Phantom Toll Booth with Chuck Jones up at Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco with the Grateful Dead standing on looking at us, filming. Go figure.
So I have a question for you.
Right.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what is the biggest difference between being a child actor in your day versus today?
The money factor is, unfortunately, back in the day, it's almost like baseball. Back in the day, my dad was a pro ball player and I was on the Munsters. We both made about $30,000 a year. And we didn't make huge money. It was good money, but it wasn't huge money. When the free agency came around for baseball and baseball players started making millions and millions and millions of dollars, and the average guy couldn't go to the ballpark, that's when things started to go south, in my opinion. Now, today, there's so much money at stake in the business that it causes the parents to be a little more pushy to want to get the kids into it. and they don't really think about the whole factor. As far as technology goes, the videotape and the way things are done is a lot different than the old days when we were doing it on film and there were dailies that were done the next day and you had to rehearse it to death to do it right the first time. That's why when I went and saw, I think I went and saw Laverne and Shirley being taped one time, and I was amazed at how many mess ups they were allowed. It didn't seem professional. They weren't, they were having a good time, but it took them forever to shoot 24 minutes. It was like 6 hours. And we literally would do 24 minutes in 3 days on film. Yeah, wow. It sounds like 3 days, but I mean, we were actually much more efficient because we had to be more professional. We had to do it. We couldn't make mistakes, and I used to have a nickname, and I was very proud of it. It was called One Take Patrick. But the reason I'd like to get it right was I wanted to go home. And the sooner we could get this thing done, the sooner we could all go out the door and go home. It's like a Clint Eastwood movie. Some directors they go a million takes like a Stanley Kubrick, and then some guys like Clint Eastwood. Let's moving on. Got it. Moving on. That's the attitude I have. As far as the business itself, it's a little. I never had any issues with any kind of weirdness in my career. Being a kid in the movie business, I think it's a lot worse than it is now. I mean, I think now there are some issues, and the society in itself has become a kind of a dark place. So I think it would be a little scarier. I don't know if I would want my kid or anybody I know going into the industry. The industry itself is not bad. It's just, unfortunately, it kind of brings in some less than it can let some people be around that have less than your best interest at heart.
Right.
Because it can be money. It can be money, but it can be a little.
It can be other things.
It could be other things. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. Okay. I was curious what your take was on that.
Yeah. Well, see, and one of the things I explain to people too is like you don't understand is when the thing at home when a kid actor has issues. A lot of times the issues aren't from the show. It's from the home life when one kid is getting all the attention and one of the parents has to take the kid to work and the other 3 kids or 4 kids that are home are feeling the pressure. It disrupts the home life. It creates problems that nobody ever thought about. They all thought, oh, you're going to be in a movie, everything's going to be wonderful. When you go back home, it's not wonderful because you've disrupted the family unit and you can cause a lot of issues and a lot of jealousy and a lot of factoring of the parents and the money and this and that. It can be problematic. Not for everybody, but it can cause problems that they never think it through.
Right. So we have another question coming in from the internet from Nem. Nem wants to know, did the adults on the set look out for you or like take you under their wing? That was first part of the question. Yes. The second part of the question is, was it lonely being the youngest actor on the set?
Once in a while, it was fun to have a guest star kid to share the schoolroom. Because that was just me and the teacher. When I wasn't in school, no, I wasn't lonely because I was friends with all the grips and the makeup people, and there was everybody around. And I was very comfortable with older people. I was not. They used to call me a 39-year-old midget. They go, "There's no way this kid's 11 years old. He acts way wise beyond his years." Today it would be a 39-year-old little person. So you got to be politically correct. But what happened was what I enjoyed doing was exploring the studio when I had free time. The Universal lot had usually about 8 to 10 movies going on at any given time and a few other series. McHale's Navy, my uncle supplied horses to Gunsmoke Wagon Train, The Virginian, and Laredo. Or going to the lab where Mike Westmore was creating the headpieces for Herman and stuff, other monster movies and stuff. So there was always something going on. And to have carte blanche to wander around, do that. Now, as far as under their wing, Fred Gwynn taught me a lot about acting because we wound up doing a lot of father and son scenes. And he was a great actor, and the Eddie Herman dynamic, I think, was good. I think it was believable. In fact, a lot of people think one of the reasons the show did so well was it was a believable family unit. It was, you bought into him going to work, Lily maintaining the house, Grandpa getting into mischief in the dungeon, Marilyn in college, and Eddie going to school. A typical family. Yvonne, she didn't teach me a whole lot, but I respected her and watched her, and I learned a lot from her because she was an old school power movie star. She was from the golden era, and she had dropped into television, but she still carried herself like a movie star, and it was noticeable. It was absolutely noticeable. She was a strong woman. Al Lewis taught me a lot about real life He was the vaudevillian, the circus guy, where Fred was Harvard in Hasty Pudding Club. They were a good comedy team, but they were totally opposites. And Al would toss the baseball with me. Fred didn't have time. Fred was like always in makeup, always doing something. But Al had some free time. Throw a frisbee, talk basketball. Let me be a grandkid to a grandson. It was like a real grandfather-grandson relationship. And as far as Pat Priest, I mean, I had a crush on the first Marilyn. She left. And then when Pat Priest stepped in, an interesting thing about Pat is she came from Washington royalty because her mom was Treasurer of the United States back way before women were in politics, type of thing. So she grew up in D.C. with the Eisenhower administration and brought a lot of interesting stuff to the table herself.
Wow.
All right.
Well, I hope that answered your question.
There was a lot of interesting stuff going on out there we had astronauts, we had Beatles, we had anybody that came to Universal for a tour always came to the Munsters set first.
Are you taking notes, Sandy, or are you doing homework?
Yeah, I'm taking notes as he's homework. I think not.
No.
Yeah, I think not.
But I do want to ask, do you think as a child, being an actor, that you really appreciated the art or craft or whatever it is of acting? Or do you think it was just like work?
It was just a knack. I had a knack for it. I didn't take it. I never really thought that I never was comfortable with the attention that was given to me. I really wanted to be a regular kid, but I also enjoyed what I was doing. But I lived about an hour away from the studio. So you go in the studio gates, you do that magic thing for the day, and then you go out the studio gates and sit in traffic to get home. But no, I just knew it was never going to be a career. It was a series of temporary jobs that hopefully was going to allow me to have enough money to buy my race car. I mean, early on, I knew that this was a temporary situation. Had I had some better guidance, and I'm not ragging on anybody, but had I thought it through and somebody would have steered me clear, I probably would have been a really good location scout because I liked architecture, I liked travel, I knew how to deal with City Hall. There's a certain thing, a way to read a script. It's not a typical. It's not like a book or a novel. It's weird to look at and read and understand it, but going around and seeing what you don't have to build and what you can utilize and not it keeps the budget down. That would have been a cool job for me because I enjoy driving and what's feasible and what's not feasible. Mm-hmm. So in hindsight, that would have been a cool thing. But I try not to look back.
Well, is that why a lot of these new indie movies they take place in the woods?
Yeah,
because I mean, you don't have to deal with the towns. You don't have to
see the trick. The trick is if you read the scene, you got to know what you have to have enough of a background in the business to know what that's going to require, and then you can see it on the street and you can say, okay, that would work. Now the trick is, can we get our trucks in? Do we have access? Can I talk to the mayor and the police? Can we shut down the street? And all the things that go along with it to make it feasible. So it's about 15% of 6 different categories that need to be done that you need to know about to see if that will work. And that would have done it for me because I had a background in the business. I could read the script and I knew what would fly and what wouldn't fly.
Right. Good answer.
Okay.
Yeah. If you do that job now, would you do it?
Now I'm too old.
That's not
by the way, if you ever do this again, you need to put a guitar in your lap, and every time you're going to ask a question, you need to come in with a chord or two.
I can do that.
And sing it.
Sing the question?
Yep.
That's a great idea. You're brilliant.
Without your guitar in your lap, I just didn't recognize you.
Well, it just meant then there's no singing on this show between us.
No, we don't sing. Yeah, our guests do, but we don't.
We may groan a little bit here and there, but
I've grown every time I sit up.
Right?
I'm actually feeling pretty good. I figure I got a couple more years left of the hard road, getting in and out of the Dragula, getting it in and out of the trailer, tying it down, firing it up. It's getting into a dragster and firing that baby up. It's a beast. It's like literally a beast. It's a real dragster. It happens to look like a Munster Dragula, but it's built as a real dragster. So it's crazy. It sounds like an alcohol dragster coming at you. It's about 500 horse, but it only weighs 1,300 pounds.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, full roller
Put some
motor.
wings on it, and you got chitty chitty bang bang.
Full roller motor, and it's got a 3,000 stall speed in it with an electric reverse for a shortened dragster transmission. It's the real deal.
Yeah, it is.
You can tell that I love talking about it.
Oh yeah, and that's why I mentioned earlier in the show, folks. Butch loves doing conventions. He loves doing sightings, but even more than that, for a little extra cha-ching, he'll bring his car.
Yeah,
and really have fun.
Your sponsor, Deadly Grounds. I've got a Deadly Grounds line of coffee myself. Tom has a roast for me, and on my bags, it's me and my Dragula.
Right.
So when I saw that, I go, "Oh wow, it's like old home week here." You got Sandy, right. you got Bill Diamond, and we were talking about Bill Diamond. Then I see Tom Lialo says Deadly Grounds Coffee. It's great.
No, it's fine. The last time I saw the car was up here in Boxborough, and it was parked right next to the Monkey Mobile.
Right.
Yep. It's probably
which was just like it for me. That was the coolest thing to see.
Right.
Well, back in the day in the 60s, the custom car culture was huge. I mean, my first car was a 69 Mach 1 and my mom had a 62 T-Bird. I mean, it was just a great time. I mean, I just feel bad for kids that don't have I mean, every youth is youth, but literally I couldn't have asked for a better window of life. I mean, I had the best childhood everything from the mini bikes to the Stingrays to the music. Mm-hmm. It just keeps going on. I mean, my dad was a pro ball player. When I wasn't at the studio, I was blessed to where I could go to the ballpark early. And he was Mickey Mantle's roommate, and he's buried next to Roger Maris. And for the 60s, everybody was watching the Munsters. So baseball players are just big kids. So I was welcomed into any locker room with, it's Eddie Munster, and here's an autographed baseball, and here's a baseball glove. I mean, how lucky could any kid be to go out into the stands early and shag flies and throw them back on the field, and I can't believe it. It was so good.
Wow, I feel deprived. My dad worked for Polaroid. I got to go in and see the machines that made the SS7.
So you were in Rochester. Were you in Rochester? Oh, Polaroid. That's Kodak.
No. Yeah. Polaroid was in Waltham.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Waltham, Mass.
Yeah. I was just lucky enough to just have a really, really good, and meeting good people and a lot of quality actors in the heyday. I mean, Edward G. Robinson was my grandfather, and My Favorite Martians and Mr. Ed's The Talking Horse. I did a couple of those, and 9 episodes of My Three Sons with Fred McMurray. I mean, just good quality stuff.
I was actually just going to bring that up because Jeff mentioned that the Dragula was parked next to the Monkey Mobile, and I was like, well, wait a minute. He appeared in an episode of The Monkees. He was in My Three Sons. He was in Rawhide, Mr. Ed, Gunsmoke. I mean, so many amazing shows.
Yeah, it was really good experience, and tempered with real kid stuff and real schools and my mom never said, "Oh, don't go ride your mini bike, you might get hurt." I wasn't bubble wrapped like the kids today, unfortunately. I mean, I still I got to tell you, I don't care who cares. I see an adult down at the beach riding a bicycle with a helmet on. What's wrong? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Now you drank out of a garden hose and ate mud when you made mud pies.
Come on. Right. Jeez. It's just like, okay, I get it. I know. But it's just, like I say, it's just a different world. It is what it is.
It is.
Yeah. I don't know. I think my head's harder than any of these helmets. So.
Oh, we exactly. Exactly. I mean, when we had skateboards back in the day, they had the hard wheels, and if you hit a rock, you stopped on a dime and you landed on your face, and it hurt. But it was like the thing when they say your mom would put mercurochrome on it if your arm was severed and then send you back outside. You'll be fine.
Yep, you'll be good.
Yeah, that's Mike Bass, huh?
Yeah. I bet you were devastated when you found out the Beatles had been at Universal the day you weren't there.
Yeah, I was. I was very upset, and I was mad because you would have thought that somebody would have one of two things, who could have either made arrangements for me. See, Bill Mooney and Angela Cartwright, they went to the Hollywood Bowl and met him and saw him at the Hollywood Bowl. I could have done that. So why didn't anybody in my team, meaning my agent or my friends or my mom or my dad, say, oh, Butch would like it. And they knew I liked the Beatles. It was not like I didn't like the Beatles. I had my Beatle boots and I had Meet the Beatles and the whole 9 yards. So those kind of things pissed me off. But I think I kind of blew it because I told my mom that I didn't like, going around Hollywood stuff, but you gotta know the Beatles are the Beatles, and this is something special. Right, but I mean, you talk about a great week, even though it wasn't the Beatles. Working with the Monkees for a week at that time when you're a 13-year-old kid in the 8th grade, that was pretty big. That was a good week.
Wow. Excellent. So we are running over a little bit on time here.
Okay.
I mean, we can go for a little longer if you want to. It's up to you.
No, I mean, if there's anything else you want to cover, we can wrap it up.
All right. So, with that being said, Sandy, do you have a last question for our guest?
Sing it.
Sing it?
On the spot.
How are you, Butch? How's it going?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm great. Are you having fun?
I'm going to do something a little funny here as we sign off here. I'm just going to walk with me here. Beatles.
Oh, wild. Look at that.
Beatles. But here, what's behind me?
Oh,
Bill Diamond.
Yep.
See him?
Oh, yeah.
That's funny.
Okay. That's
great.
That's funny.
No problem.
So, Jeff, any last questions for our guest?
Yeah, I have my standard 2. Sometimes I mix them up, but I'm going to go with my standard 2.
Okay.
Number 1, are you a cat guy or a dog guy?
Both, actually. But mostly,
fantastic.
I like having a dog more than a cat. But because I just travel so much, I haven't been able to have either. But my girlfriend's got 3 cats. But I like them both. We've always had cats and dogs.
Okay. All right. So you go both ways. I go both ways. I like cats and dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
Question number 2. What do you put on your pizza?
Pepperoni, black olives, and mushrooms.
Yeah, okay. I'll do half of that. Okay.
I'll do half.
You can learn a lot about a person based on what they eat on their pizza and whether they like cats or dogs. So
yeah, absolutely.
That is true. That is true.
Pets love me. I get along great with pets, kids and pets.
So, like I said at the beginning of the show, folks, make sure you check out the Sid and Marty Croft channel on Cineverse. They're re-releasing Lidsville for a new generation. You won't be disappointed. Again, the 60th anniversary of the Munsters, an amazing TV show that basically touched a lot of people and has sustained over 60 years. I mean, there's not many that can say that.
If you want to have some fun, just go on eBay and just punch up Munsters collectibles and spend the next 10 years looking at how much stuff's out there.
Right. And then buy it all, and Butch will be very happy.
No, I make nothing off of that.
that was a joke. That was a joke.
Okay.
But in all seriousness, where do you like interacting with your fans on the social medias?
I'm pretty much a Facebook kind of guy. I'm going to do one more thing before we leave.
That's fine.
Hold on. Walking.
Time.
I know. Hold on. You'll get a kick out of this.
You notice how I left him full screen for that.
Right. Oh, there it is.
There's Dragula.
There it is.
I got it. I was working on it, so I actually work on my stuff. Oh, and I got some new bicycles too. That's cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So anyway, Facebook mostly. Although I do have a Instagram account. I'm not really much of a Facebook, social media person, but I do have Instagram. I do have Facebook, and I do have Twitter, I guess X, whatever it's called now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so, I know you're not much of a social media guy. I think I sent you a friend request like 17 times already.
You know something? I'm really bad about that. And I'm sorry. I apologize to anybody that's been trying to reach me on that, but it's just so difficult.
You guys are all the same. I had to corner Tony Moran just to accept mine.
Yeah.
Well, you had to corner Bill too, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep.
We were filming with Bill, and you were like, "What the hell? I sent you a friend request like a year ago," and he's like, "What's that?"
Hold on a second. I lost you guys. Hold on. So I see me, but I don't see you guys.
Well, that's because you're full screen.
There we are. Okay, good. Good.
Yeah, I had you on full screen because you were showing Dracula.
Yeah, when you mentioned Tony Moran, it's interesting. One of the things when you do these conventions and stuff and you go out, it's fun to meet the fans, but it's also fun to meet the guys on the other side of the table that are your contemporaries that you don't get a chance to see very often. And we're kind of an unusual breed, but we're people and we enjoy meeting each other and seeing each other, but we all appreciate where we're at, and at least most of them do. I think the vast majority are good. I mean, there's probably a few like anybody that can be a little trying, but I love Tony and like the Kane Hodders, and there's certain people that I get along really well with, and it's kind of fun. And then there's a little bit of an interesting child actors that we're all now in our elderly years. Yeah. I mean, I don't feel elderly, but by legal 71 years old, when you go in, you can order off the old people's menu.
Right.
Yeah. It's cheaper to get into movies.
It's only there's just a certain something about people that can. It's hard to explain what you did, but at least other people that were in the industry at the same time you were, you don't have to explain it to them because they did it.
Right.
And they get it.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate it. And the Beaver and Timmy from Lassie, John Provost and stuff like that, and Larry Matthews. There's a cool clique going on with groups of people like that. That it's nice that and a lot of them are. I mean, there's a lot of people passing, but boy, there's a lot of people living really to be old.
Mm-hmm.
They stay busy. They don't retire. It's like what do you want to do when you retire? Just sit around waiting to die.
God.
Pretty much.
No, you got to stay busy. You got to keep going.
Like Sandy, it'll happen to you. And when you're sitting around in the year 2080,
right?
I don't want to die. I mean,
I don't want to die. You will. Your music will live on. Trust me.
I hope so.
See, the key, Sandy, is to make your mark on the world. So even when your physical body is no longer here, your mark continues on.
I make puppets.
You do more than make puppets. You do more than make puppets. Okay.
Yes,
don't tell yourself short.
I'll make puppets.
Yeah.
All right, folks. I'm gonna make some
Sandy,
dinner.
where do you like interacting with your friends on the social medias? Where do you like interacting with your? Oh, stop it!
How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, social media.
Facebook is the best. Facebook, but Instagram and everything.
Everything. I put them up in the show notes earlier, folks.
Right,
Jeffrey. Let's close out the show.
As always, don't ever look me up. Just go to stilltalking.com. Go to Talking with the Dead on Facebook. I'm just Jeff. I'm just part of this shit show, trying to have some fun and leave my mark. I want to thank Sandy for coming on, and I do want to say, make sure that you look her up. She is going to be doing some amazing things in the coming years. I just see it. I can recognize talent. I recognized I didn't have any a long time ago, and and thank you, Butch. I do. How the hell did you come up with Butch?
Nickname. My grandmother named me that the day I was born.
You don't get to ask any more questions.
My grandma named me Butch. I was named Patrick Alan Caples. Yes. My mom's name was Patricia. My dad's name was Alan. They went to a lot of trouble to figure that out. Patrick Alan Caples. My mom remarried to Lilley, and I was adopted by Dave Lilley, who was my sister's father as well. So we all became Lilleys. So, but Butch has always been a nickname, and to this day, I'm pretty sure I'm the only Butch in Screen Actors Guild. For some reason, the character name is in a lot of scripts, but nobody actually ever took the name to be an actor for some reason, other than me.
Oh.
A lot of sports guys, but no actors.
There you go. Now you learned something else new, folks.
See?
So I want to say thank you to Butch for coming out and hanging out with us tonight. Learned a little bit. I hope you all learned a lot. Definitely check out Cineverse, the Sid and Marty Croft channel, Lidsville, and all the amazing shows that are there. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here with all these last-minute comments coming in. Again, to Sandy for hanging out, being a special co-host this evening. And like Jeff said, stilltoking.com. You can find out everything you want to know about us, from the novel to the comic book series to the TV series to the upcoming animation stuff. But to all our veterans and first responders, we want to thank you for doing what you do so people like us can come up here and do what we do. Stay safe. We'll see you next week. We are out of here.